This evening, Walter Rodney's colleagues, friends, those closest to him, and a younger generation influenced by him will be his voice, if only for a moment.
The first point I want to make relates to a meeting at Parade Ground. This was his first speech after he returned to Guyana. He delivered at a public meeting held at Parade Ground, attended by thousands of people. On that occasion, one of the issues that he dealt with that stuck in my mind was the role of the revolutionary intellectual. He made the point that in Guyana and the Caribbean, our intellectuals' education was made possible by the wealth created by the working people's labor. And the revolutionary intellectual must see his or herself as a servant of the people. And he emphasized that that is how he saw his role in the struggle.
And particularly, she told me that Walter Rodney, first of all, is from West Veld, that he grew up in West Veld. I was amazed. I said, oh my gosh, I live in West Veld. Walter Rodney was from West Veld. Then I learned that his wife, Patricia, was actually a neighbor. She lived obliquely opposite where I live. And that Rodney would come there very often in the community, and they would see him in the yard, and he'll be weeding the yard, and he'll be interacting with the people. Then I learned that the WPA hosted lots of meetings at a flat house that was around the corner from me. And Rodney would be there, and a lot of the young people got there first, especially my uncle. He learned about the Malcolm X at one of those meetings. I don't know if that is the ground. I'm at this point now where I'm talking about, and I'm using those reflections as my basis, talking about Rodney and a struggle that I've had for a while now. I started my community service, so to speak, at the age of 13. And largely influenced by those ideas that I read about early in the newspapers about Walter Rodney, but also about Cheddi Jagan and Burnham and how they were interested in transforming their spaces. So I had been struggling, and I still am struggling now as I exit youth. I just turned 30. And I'm struggling with the notion of youth movements, its significance, especially in our contemporary society, and whether we are truly engaged in movement building and transformational change. And this has been my struggle. Not about Rodney. One, he was a radical scholar. So we know this. He was a radical scholar. We knew that he understood that his scholarship had to be connected to his work. And that moreover, that he analyzed not within a global context necessarily only, but he localized that observation and also his intellectual applications to that observation. So therefore, Rodney was not beholden to ideology as such, but he definitely understood that ideology was necessary. That is, that a deeper understanding of the fundamentals of things was necessary for transforming the spaces in which we live. And that transforming the spaces in which we live was necessary and the requirement for all intellectual people. That was the point of your scholarship. And then we look at the characteristics of youth movements today. That we have moved from youth movements within spaces, a spatial dimension, to a more temporal type of youth movements that is defined by time and moments. And we have big things that happen big and grand on social media and so on at one point, but that are not seemingly connected to a larger vision of what is possible. And there is where I think Rodney comes in. As Andaya would say, and as Andaya had said in our personal conversations, Rodney was a big thinker. And fundamental to understanding youth movements and the context for youth movements is discussing whether or not we are big thinkers and whether it is necessary to think big in terms of confronting and what do we truly believe is possible in terms of transforming our societies. The key question for us as young people is, are we at the end, truly at the end of history? Are we at the end of meaningful movements? And do we need to transform also our conceptualization of solidarity? In the youth work that I've done, I learned as a teenager, think global and act local. And as I look through this and I look at Rodney's work, maybe it is think local, act local. That you localize the experiences, observations, and that you apply deeper understanding and meaning to the movements that we're building. Thank you.
Being here. Now, activism. Activism to me, it's art. And the art that it resembles closest is poetry. Activism is full of beauty, it's full of ugliness, but most importantly, it's full of truth, and it's full of history. So tonight, I'm really here to tell you a story, and I'm here to tell you the story of my activism, but in particular, I'd like to tell you the story of how Dr. Walter Rodney fueled the passion behind my poetry of activism, and I'd like to demonstrate that activism to you live tonight. And what he did for me is this. Dr. Rodney reached from death, and he gave me 4 very important gifts. And these are things that I will treasure for the rest of my life, because even as I had began growing into the person that I would become, I still was not seeing the light. I was seeing a beam, but everything was not illuminated. And for me, his ideas brought that illumination. And the first gift he gave me was courage. And let me tell you what I did with that courage. I took that courage and I spoke out against corruption. I spoke out against a government that looked like me at the time. I took that courage and I took on government officials. I took that courage and I began to write about the politics of race in Guyana and what it continued to do to us. And I took it and I wrote and I told my truth to everyone, and I broke the silence and I overcame the fear, and I showed people that it was possible to do that we still could do that. And I think that that was one of the most important things that he left me, the courage to show people that it was still possible to fight.
Now, People's Power, No Dictator is one of the works that I did during the reminiscence of the Civil Rebellion in 1979. And it came out as one of Walter's writings. In fact, one of his speeches, People's Power, No Dictator, in which he said, as I said before, you start with one thing, you end up with another. The system doesn't stop at racial discrimination because it is a system of class oppression. It only camouflages its class nature under a racial cover, and in the end it will move against anyone irrespective of color. In the end, they will move even against their own. Because don't believe, if you're a member of that party today, that you will be protected tomorrow from the injustices. Because when a monster grows, it grows out of control. It eats up even those who created the monster. And it's time that our people understood that.